Welcome to the Good Eye Podcast. I'm Jay Smack. This podcast is about a lot of things, but it mainly is about being engaged and being engaged in your community. It's a large focus of it. It's also about health, mindfulness, pretty much anything having to do with people doing good stuff, looking at life through their good eye, if you will. Beyond Boundaries is an organization in the Richmond area that offers persons with physical, cognitive, or economic challenges opportunities to experience outdoor activities. Get out there and get some exercise and some confidence that some people take for granted. It's a passion for many people, and some folks just don't have access to it for one reason or another. Shep Roeper of Beyond Boundaries makes sure those folks, mainly kids, have access to outdoor experiences. He's an engaged guy. He loves the outdoors, so he brought it all together to help his community. Here's my conversation with him. Today is Shep Roeper from Beyond Boundaries on the Good Eye Podcast. And here we are on another Good Eye Podcast with Shep Roeper. Shep, thanks for making time, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we hooked up at a recent meeting, as is often the case on these podcasts, because I meet a lot of really interesting people, a lot of community-engaged people through Synapse. And you were kind enough to come over to our meeting at the McShin Foundation, where we sort of gather, our hub, as it were, and talk about Beyond Boundaries. And I had heard of Beyond Boundaries before and organizations like it, and we found out we had some mutual friends. So I wanted to get you on and talk about the mission and find out about some of the great stuff you're doing. I've always been like an outdoor enthusiast, love camping, cycling. I used to do a little bit more kayaking. I always had to borrow one or rent one. I never owned one, but love time on the water in any form. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and tell us about Beyond Boundaries. We'll start with the mission. What's it all about?
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit based out of Richmond, Virginia, and been around for about 9 years now. And really what we do is we try to connect people to nature who typically don't have those opportunities. So we work with kids and adults with disabilities. We work with groups in substance recovery, veterans, and underserved youth. And we take them hiking, fishing, rock climbing, whitewater rafting, kayaking, pontooning, biking, everything you can imagine to do in and around the Richmond area. And half of our mission is, like I said, creating those opportunities, getting people into the outdoor spaces, while the other half is about really building a stronger community, getting volunteers, community partners, businesses involved as volunteers, so that we can create a very inclusive space to bond and connect with one another in a very fun environment.
You mentioned a lot in that first bit that a lot I want to unpack, including
Sure.
Community partners. Aside from other nonprofits, I know you partner with a lot of other nonprofits to offer folks who might not otherwise have the opportunity to get out and experience outdoor activities. You partner with nonprofits and businesses to help with diversity and inclusion training. Talk about a little bit about some of that on the nonprofit side and the business side. And feel free to mention any organizations by name if you want to, or if you can.
Yeah. So our business model is, instead of having like an open calendar sign up registration, we partner with existing nonprofits and businesses, mainly nonprofits, in the community that have members, that have clients, that have participants. We partner with them and offer our opportunities. So some of our larger partners are the Autism Society of Central Virginia, the Virginia Down Syndrome Association, Jacob's Chance. The McShin Foundation is a huge partner. You mentioned that's where we connected for our meeting. This year we'll do, I think, 24 trips with McShin Foundation, both whitewater rafting and rock climbing. So those are the Boys to Men mentoring. That's another big partner of ours. So we've got all in all about 30 partners that we work with annually. We also partner with other businesses to help create those opportunities. So like when we do water activities, we partner with a local business, RVA Paddle Sports. We partner with groups that are on like the assistance side of either volunteer hours and or gear. So Green Top, is a partner of ours and a sponsor of ours. Local climbing gyms, stuff like that. And you mentioned our disability inclusion training. I'm glad you brought it up. One way that we really are able to succeed on the level that we do is by volunteering and bringing groups in to help create the opportunities. But many people we found who might like the activity, fishing, kayaking, rock climbing, have never done it with and around someone with a disability. So they might, love rock climbing, but maybe they haven't done that with, a child with Down syndrome. So we want to make sure that all our volunteers are supported and feel empowered and are set up for success when they come and volunteer with us. So we offer this training. We call it disability inclusion. We play games, activities, run through scenarios, and answer questions. That's the big one, all around how to empower through our words and our body language people with disabilities in our program. And when you break it down, it's really just communication skills. It's stuff that we're talking about that you naturally do with your friends and family. People just have these questions maybe running through their mind of they don't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. They want to include, not exclude. So by going through these scenarios and this curriculum that we've created, it really helps people leave with a sense of confidence to show up and volunteer.
You were talking about some of the organizations you work with and some of the special challenges that some of the folks have that come out and work with you guys. When you're bringing on new volunteers or prospective volunteers, is it a challenge to find people that you don't have to train a lot for, with special consideration for people with certain challenges? Is there any special sort of certification that anybody needs? Now, naturally, rock climbing comes to mind first. That's an intense activity and it can be dangerous. Are there any special considerations when you're talking to volunteers?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that we field actually pretty regularly. I always say there's two ways you can volunteer on most of our programs. There's the social aspect and the skill aspect. So you're talking about rock climbing. If you're a rock climber, you know how to belay, or paddling. If you have whitewater paddling experience, then we can definitely use those skill sets to help facilitate the program. Now, the social side is a much more common ask of come out, show up, socialize. That tends to happen on paddling and climbing opportunities also, but really on hiking opportunities, on fishing opportunities, on pontooning opportunities. These activities that are not as much skill driven, but more social and recreation driven. And that's where we really try to get people to help out if they don't have those specific skill sets. I will say that there's a lot of times that I learn stuff from our volunteers. We have a wide, diverse background of volunteers of what education and field of work and interest they bring to the table. So we have a lot of people who are nurses or maybe, rec therapists and stuff who are very integrated in the field, disabilities or assistance. And, I learn stuff from them all the time. So, whether you're recently retired, you're, maybe a high school student looking to get some volunteer hours, or you're really into the activity or group we work with, we welcome you all day long.
What's speaking of that, while you're on it, what's a good way for folks who might want to volunteer with you to get in touch or to fill out a form or something?
I always try to drive in one or two places. Our website, which is beyondboundariesrva.org, and then volunteers at beyondboundariesrva.org, and we can help field questions there. If you go through our website, we just been working with a local group called Trailhead Creative. They're kind of helping us a lot with branding and content creation and program development and all that stuff. They're great. They just got done redoing our website, really upping the accessibility a lot, which we're really proud of. So check out the new site, beyondboundariesrva.org. A lot of questions, you see pictures. There's a lot of Q&As on there. So you can field a lot of questions just with what we have provided there.
Cool. Are there some activities that are more popular than others, or are there most popular activities? Just curious, anything like rafting or whatever?
It's hard. It depends on who you ask. It depends on what season. If you're in the dead of winter, you're really craving that summer activity, I think. But I think, rock climbing is probably one of the most frequent things we do because we've got a solid 4 or 5 months to do indoor and outdoor climbing. So that's probably our highest number. I know whitewater rafting is a big adrenaline driven, sought out after programs for some of our groups. And now for some of our groups, it's a little too intimidating. It's not the laid back, relaxing activity they're looking for. So when it comes to that, fishing and pontooning seem to be pretty popular depending on what people are looking to get out of the day.
Nice. Cool. Speaking of the activities and stuff, and professionally, what's your background? How did you end up here? And is this your full-time gig?
Yeah, so I graduated Radford with an outdoor rec degree and dabbled a little bit in some therapeutic rec programs, which I found really was a driving force behind my interest in realizing how therapeutic being outside can be and how to, frame programs to meet the needs and goals of the participants. My co-founder, Kyle Burnett, did the same thing at Radford, same track. We both went out to California after college and worked for a company that really started adaptive and accessible recreation adventures in the late 60s and 70s. We loved what they did. When we moved back to Richmond, we wanted to volunteer with something like that. And after researching, we didn't find anything. So we decided to start Beyond Boundaries. It was a part-time hustle like most businesses start out to be for the first few years. And then I went full-time 5 years ago, and with a lot of support from Kyle and from our volunteers and, like I said, community partners. And then last year we brought on our now program director, Katie. And then this year we brought on another program coordinator, Alec. And then we have both of them are full-time. And then we have two part-time, Sarah, and she's in Richmond, and then Travis. So we were piloting this in Roanoke, Virginia this year, which has gone phenomenally well. We're working with veterans and first responders almost every other month out of Camp Roanoke and doing overnight experiences, and it's going great.
Oh, that's cool. So you don't, I guess, technically have a second location, but you got a program out in Roanoke, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Speaking of reach, do you hear much from either similar organizations, or I'm just going to throw out an example, and not that they're affiliated with you, but like an REI, somebody who's really engaged in outdoor activities and leans into the local aspect of stuff, of outdoor stuff. Do you hear from around the country? Because Richmond, for a good 10, 15 years, I mean, even longer, but really since I guess it was featured in Outside Magazine and also the Xterra races were here, has gotten this really good reputation as an outdoor city in an urban environment, what with the James and the Buttermilk Trails and all that. Do you hear from folks around the country who are curious about what you're doing?
We do. To some extent, I think we're always trying to see what else is out there. What are people doing that maybe we could offer? So we're Google searching all the time. And then people in the field of recreation are always name dropping. Have you heard of this? Have you heard of this? So I love to learn about other organizations. You mentioned REI. They've been a financial sponsor through their grant program locally and nationally for a few years, and they very much support our program. We have a lot of local support from Green Top, and then also Walkabout Outfitters, also, in the outdoor space, which is great. We have a lot of community support, which we're very, very proud and very appreciative of that support, allowing us to really do the capacity that we do. But we're always looking for what else are people doing. We try to stay in touch with our California, pioneer company that we started working for as much as we can, because we owe a lot to them for kind of sparking that interest and stability. But it really is impressive what, you mentioned. So Richmond has been an amazing destination city, I think, for outdoor recreation. And a lot of people have been coming here or returning back here that want to play in their hometown, which is really great to see. So we do have a lot of outreach for volunteers, which is exciting. But then in the world of adaptive sports, I'm just so impressed and proud how far it's come in the last 10 years with new equipment, new innovative, systems and technology that's really allowed people with physical disabilities to advance really far in the sport of their choice.
I was going to ask whether, and I think you mentioned this when we met, whether you interacted or collab with Sportable here locally, Hunter Lehman and his team. And you mentioned the adaptive sports, and you guys have, right?
Yeah, we have. So that's great. And that's so Sportable is amazing. And they're a partner with us. We don't have a lot of crossover. We actually have a lot of crossover with athletes or participants, like they might do programs with us and with them. But as far as services provided, we partner on our indoor rock climbing. That's a big one that we both provide. And instead of competing, it's much better to join forces and just put on a phenomenal program. And like I mentioned earlier, climbing is one of our most popular programs, and adaptive climbing, when we partner with Sportable and Peak Experience, is just, it's a world on itself. I mean, it's an amazing community and supportive group, and everyone from volunteers to athletes. I just hear amazing stories of how when the program's done, they can't wait for the next week to start.
Man, it's really incredible what you're doing. I mean, so many people enjoy volunteerism and enjoy the outdoors. You're kind of rolling it all into one and helping the community. It's an amazing thing you're doing.
Yeah, I feel very lucky that I get to do this full time.
You guys adopted a stretch of the Capitol Trail, right? Which is something close to my heart as an avid cyclist. How'd that come about? And it just sounds interesting that a nonprofit would adopt part of another nonprofit's mission. Maybe talk about that a little bit and how you use it.
Yeah, so one of the things that we try to do internally is we love our work is work, even though a lot of people use our platform as a volunteer opportunity. So it's interesting. We get to do stuff that a lot of people do as a volunteer, but it's our paycheck. So we kind of talked as a team, and we wanted to go beyond that and volunteer and give back to the community. And I think that if you appreciate any aspect of the outdoor field, you can appreciate keeping it clean. I think, just environmental stewardship, leave no trace, picking up trash is at the very root of everything. Everyone should be doing that. So that's one thing that we tackled this past year. We actually have received a few years in a row some grant support from the Capitol Trail Foundation, which really helped us spark this connection and relationship with the Cap Trail. And now that we're playing on it more and using it more, I think that we just have this, expectation that we need to keep it clean more. So we applied. We said when there's a stretch that opens up, we'd love to have it. And the great thing about that is that we use it internally, where the staff will go clean it up. We've done it with our volunteers as our volunteer opportunity, and we've done it with our program partners. So now we have our participants that do all of our adventure activities helping clean it up too. So now you're talking full circle of how people are feeling that this community is really getting stronger, not just from a recreation, but from like an environmental stewardship aspect too.
Nice. Okay. Along those same lines, do you ever take folks participating in your programs or even volunteers out on, say, fundraising events? And I'm just thinking, selfishly or something that relates to me, like I do the MS ride or I do something for the Forward Foundation. Do you guys ever go out and participate in those sort of events to support other nonprofits?
We haven't done so much on the events. Now we have supported, with monetary donations, especially the big partners of ours that have events or galas or fundraisers, whether big or small. But we haven't done as many. And it's interesting. I got introduced to the Ford Foundation shortly before I met you, so I was familiar. But then I followed your social recently about that. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for us out there to give back in different ways, active ways specifically, to help support, because I don't know how many of your listeners are from Richmond or not from Richmond, but Richmond is a very special place when it comes to nonprofits. There's a lot of great people doing some amazing things here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I ask that question because I'm seeing a lot more, not always adaptive, but like recumbent bikes and things that allow people to stay active, equipment that allows people to stay active, even if they're just either getting older or maybe have had an injury, not necessarily a certain physical challenge. So I'm seeing more of that open up, which is really cool because more people helping and more people engaging is always a good thing.
Yeah, it keeps people active in a sport they've always loved for longer, and it introduces people to a new sport that they haven't tried before because of maybe lack of equipment or something, or maybe a not need for that equipment earlier. You're right.
Yeah. So your organization sounds really cool. It's really amazing. You're doing amazing things, but I'm sure there's some people, whether they are people with certain challenges themselves or family members or parts of organizations, who think, oh my gosh, that just sounds, I could never do that, or it sounds too hard, especially when you're talking about adaptive climbing. I mean, that sounds amazing. What do you want them to know if they're like hesitant to even look up your services or reach out to you? I guess maybe a little pep talk or something like that, or what would they be surprised to find out?
Yeah, and that does happen. We do have people who reach out via our social media or website with questions. And like I said, since we don't take registration, I like to have a lot of conversations with people. I get to learn more about why they reached out. What are they hoping to maybe gain information wise or experience wise? And then I typically try to, point them in a direction of a resource like Sportable or Jacob's Chance or an association that they could get involved with and then go through our programs. But I'll be honest, we have a lot of first timers come through our adventures because they didn't know they could, or they were told they could never do these activities, right? And it's pretty special to witness someone who didn't think they could go rock climbing, or their parents might not have supported that because they didn't know, or they were worried for obvious safety reasons that this is not a safe activity. But with proper training and equipment, it is, and it's really fun and it's very empowering. So it's really great to witness someone doing something for the first time. So we have a lot of long conversations to answer people's questions and fears of why they haven't done it before. And I think that sets people's mind at ease a little bit. But also we have a very diverse program offering. So if you're not, rarely am I going to throw you the suggestion of go right into climbing or rafting. It might be come get to know us. Let's go fishing. Let's go hiking. Let's do something a little less intimidating, that if it's just not the experience you want, you can just pack up and leave at your will. And then as we develop that relationship and they start to understand our staff and our volunteers and us as an organization, and then we understand them and a little bit more, then that curiosity starts to spark of like, well, I think I would like to try this. I'd like to try kayaking. Maybe rafting would be fun. The other piece, which is super helpful, is when they see their friends and family go through it. They might not be the first person to jump, but if they know someone within their community that has done it, or maybe they had similar concerns at the beginning, and now they get to hear all the amazing stories that their friend is saying, then they're a little more willing to kind of jump on board.
Do you do any like information sessions or anything like that where people can kind of just test the waters or, see how it feels?
We haven't yet. I like that idea though. Yeah. Let me stew on that for a little bit. I like it.
I'm here to help.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Totally off the subject. You ever had any media training? Because this all seems to come, especially you were speaking at Synapse at McShin, and now here, you seem very comfortable. I'm just curious. This all just, it's really your vibe, man. It's your brand, which is amazing.
I absolutely love my job, and I'd say if there's any tank it's coming from, it's the tank of passion. I mean, I've been doing this for about 10 years, and then in California, and then Radford for school. So I've been in it for a while, but I've seen it. I've experienced firsthand how beneficial it is, not only for me, but for the whole community. Like last year we did just under 200 programs and worked with about 1,700 participants. This year we'll do about 250, maybe a little north of 250 program wise, and work with about 2,000 participants. So our reach is really expanding. And with that, I'm making so many new relationships and connections with participants and families, and seeing the trickle effect of like when the program's done, it doesn't stop there. People feel more confident. That improves their quality of life. They get more excited about trying new things. Maybe they feel empowered in finding career opportunities because they're more independent. I mean, there's so many great takeaways and impacts that happen after we say our closing circle goodbyes.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's obvious that you love what you do. And I figured that was going to be the answer. I mean, when you love what you do, you never have to fake anything. So that's beautiful.
I like that. People always say we love what you do. You don't work a day in your life. I think that's not true. I think we all work very hard every day, but you don't have to fake it. So I haven't heard that one before. I like that.
And I intentionally did not say you never have to work it, because anybody who works for themselves, whether it's nonprofit or an individual, you work every day. You might right. like it, but it's still work.
Very much.
We touched on it earlier, but how can people help you? How can people get in touch to help, whether they want monetary, volunteer opportunities, or take advantage of the programs? You mentioned the website. Anything else you want to mention? And the floor is yours if there's anything we didn't cover.
No, this has been awesome. So we need help in a few different ways. Volunteering is huge. We could not do what we do without the extent of our volunteers. And because all the passion that our volunteers and experience and skills that they bring just makes our program that much better. So if any of the stuff that we talked about today, like resonates with you, please reach out, go to the website, get on our volunteer newsletter so you can know what's coming up. We always need that. Two of the biggest reasons why we found participants don't have these opportunities are they didn't know how to safely do them, so gear, and they can't afford them. Like, it's a very expensive category to play in. The equipment is expensive, and then you have to pay to really learn the skills. So financial and physical barriers are hard. So financial contributions always go a long way. They go directly to participants so that they don't have to pay, or they pay a very minimal fee. And then other funds allow us to buy the equipment to make these opportunities possible, to make them happen. So really, like I always say, if you're going to do something, come out and hang out with us. Volunteer. I want you part of the Beyond Boundaries family. I want you part of the community, and everything that you're going to do in whatever form or fashion is going to happen after you get connected. But if you can do one thing, come out to one event and meet us and get involved.
Cool. Yep. Easy as that. Well, so to speak, but it kind of is. Just show up, kick the tires a little bit, and you'll probably get a lot of engagement, Well, cool. Shep, like I said, floor is yours. Anything else you want to cover that we haven't?
This has been great. I mean, I could talk to White Off and Aspirin about what I do all day, so I'm not going to. But I appreciate you chatting with me, giving me the chance to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and as well as a lot of people in Richmond. And I just encourage everyone that might want to volunteer to reach out, at least start with questions. And then anyone out there listening that might be a participant, and if you have questions, reach out. I'd love to talk to you about what we do, and then help, steer that conversation and connection to one of our partnering organizations so you can get involved.
Excellent. That's where we'll leave it. Shep Roeper from Beyond Boundaries. Appreciate your time, man, and your service.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks to Shep for making time in his busy schedule to come on and talk to us about being so engaged in the community and helping mainly kids get out into the great outdoors. It's really great therapy if you're not an outdoorsy type of person, but anybody can find time to kind of walk around the block or roll around the block or just be out in nature. It's an amazing source of self-therapy. So thanks to Shep. Find out more about Beyond Boundaries at beyondboundariesrva.org. Hit me up at j@jsmack.com with any ideas, or if you'd like to have a conversation. And thank you once again for listening, and thanks for your time, attention, and intention. See you again soon on another Good Eye podcast.